My name is Derick Mattingly, and I am the lead cocktail specialist here at Limestone Branch Distillery. I 100% remember the first time I tasted bourbon and was like, this not bad. It's pretty good stuff. When I started up here in 2017, I actually started out as a distiller in the back. And Stephen Fonte, our brand ambassador, invited all the distillers up to his house one night. And we actually sat out on his front porch and he poured us bourbon. I'm not remember what he poured me, but he poured us each however we wanted it, either neat over ice. And I sat out on the front porch with Fonte and the rest of the distillers at the time, and I sipped on that bourbon and I was like, community, and this is pretty good stuff. So, some of the more memorable experiences that I've had behind the bar is I've actually got regular customers that come in here just to get a cocktail. I had one come in yesterday, said they drove 3 hours just to come get a Manhattan from me. And also been opened up to where I've got to work events that I would never be able to work, and experiences like 2 weeks ago I was in Louisiana for Tales of the Cocktail. That would have never happened unless I was, doing what I was doing. Favorite part of my job is just meeting the different group of people that you meet. It's not one genre of people, it's just wide, it's worldwide. And you meet people from all over the world and learn about their lives. And of course, being a bartender, people open up to you a little bit easier than they would if you were somebody else. Bourbon, it kind of helps you slow down. And I'm gonna steal something from Stephen Fontaine. You may have heard him say it. If you got bourbon in one hand and a cigar in the other, you're not looking at your screen, and you're actually conversating with people and learning about people. So it pulls you out of the technology. It kind of slows you down a little bit to where you can actually sit and talk with people and learn about people and their lives, what's going on in their lives. So it's something about bourbon causes you to slow down a little bit and just enjoy life. If I'm going to drink at home, I'm probably gonna try to create a cocktail and drink it through a cocktail. I got more least favorite cocktails to make than I do more favorites. So the least favorite that I make is the mint julep. I mean, it's a popular cocktail in Kentucky. I hate making it. Anything else is just fun. I don't like to do a whole lot of muddling. So anything that has to be muddled in a cocktail, I'm going to kind of steer away from. If somebody tries to order a mint julep from me, I'll flat out tell them we only do mint juleps one day a year, and that's Derby. Besides that, I got a pretty good menu. Let's steer away from the mint julep and try something else. The current menu that I offer, my favorite cocktail probably would be what we call the Caldera. That's a jalapeno strawberry cocktail with some L8 in it. It's probably my favorite one to make. So this cocktail here is our Caldera. I found this cocktail online, and I've made it to fit my palate, and then luckily people liked it. With this cocktail, you get the little bit of the spiciness from the jalapeno, but you also get that sweetness of the strawberry, and they just blend real well together. And it's a real simple cocktail. I mean, we just used our Yellowstone Select. It's a 2-ounce pour, so I don't really pour real light. I like a little heavier pour, so might make my cocktails a little bit better. I don't know, I'm not tooting my own horn. We use our Yellowstone Select, and then I use an ounce of the jalapeno simple syrup that I've made, and that took me longer to get the jalapeno simple syrup where it's not too hot or not too sweet. So it's not a sweet cocktail. It's not gonna give you a headache. And then I use the real strawberry. I mean, it's the closest thing to muddling actually strawberries. I don't like to muddle. And it's just a shooken cocktail, thrown over ice, topped off with some ginger ale. Sorry, not ginger ale. L8, a local Kentucky soft drink. And that's our Caldera. In my opinion, I think what makes bourbon stand out is the guidelines to be bourbon. I mean, you got a set of rules that you have to follow, or you can't have that bourbon moniker. And I think that's what makes bourbon stand out above other whiskeys. I mean, we've got those guidelines that we have to meet as far as proof off the still, proof in the barrel, proof in the bottle. You can't go below a certain proof, aging. It's the guidelines that are set up for bourbon in particular. That's what makes us stand out in the bourbon industry, or in the industry altogether, is that guidelines for bourbon. Is there a proper way to drink bourbon? No. Drink your bourbon how you like your bourbon. I mean, if you want it over ice, you want it neat, you want to put Coke over it, you want to blend it in a cocktail. As long as you're drinking bourbon, there's no wrong way to drink it. But the way we use our flights here is if they're not real sure about what they want to try to taste, we'll push them to our tasting flight. And usually on our tasting flight, we're going to offer distillery exclusives. And normally, the majority of the exclusives on that flight is going to be employee picks, and that's hand-picked barrels by the employees that work here. So I tell them you're actually tasting stuff that we like, so it's easier to kind of pull them into that bourbon world by tasting something that you actually got part of choosing outside of the flagship bourbons. So we'll pull them in and we'll talk about the single barrels that we have offered that the employees were able to pick. And that seems to help because we offer them at different proofs, and we've got something that will pretty much meet everybody's palate. This is a flight that you could get when you come into the distillery. And what we've got on the flight is, of course, our flagship. That's our 93 proof select. Our family recipe, which is all pot still distillate. There's no column still distillate in here, so it's a pretty unique profile. It's kind of your great granddaddy's bourbon, if you will. Our toasted, which was a special run that Steve did. He only did 30 barrels of that. And then an employee pick, which is exclusive to the distillery as well. So stuff you can't find on the open market that you want to come in and try to get. So the 93 proof is our 4 and 7 year old blend. That's your, you'll get your butterscotches and your caramels on that one. The family recipe, you're going to get 6 year old blended barrels off of a pot still. You're going to get earthiness on the nose and smokiness on the palate at 100 proof. Our toasted barrel, being finished in that toasted barrel, the toastiness of the barrel comes through. And at 100 proof, it's extremely smooth as well. And then you get an employee pick. Now these are going to be higher proofs. They're going to go from 102, you be 102 proof, 109 proof, 115 proof, or 119 proof. Depending on what's available at the time, we've got something for all types of bourbon drinkers, whether they like that high proof or kind of the not so high proof. These are typically right around 5 years old. And I don't do tasting notes on the employee picks because every time I taste them, I get something completely different. So I just leave that open to the customer that's drinking it at the time, what they taste. The first employee picks were Char, Case, Bosley, Corky, and Louie. That's the animals of the distillery. They got the first barrels. And then the first employee pick itself was one that I was able to be in on. How it initially got started, I'm not 100% sure whose idea it was, but the way that we do it is they actually let us sit down with samples and we'll taste through the samples at different proofs. And it's 100% our decision on the flavor profile that we get to pull out of the barrel selected. And then we get to name it, so it puts a little personal touch on it as well. So how it got started, not sure. Glad that we do it 100%. My second pick, I remember a little bit more than my first pick. I was green with my first pick. I was a little bit more palate trained on my second pick. My second pick was a 5-year-old single barrel, and it was 109 proof. And it reminded me a little bit of Cherry Coke as far as the profile goes. And that's what stood out most to me, was that it had a little bit of sweetness, but you got a little bit of the rye as well. And at 109 proof, it was super smooth. Some words of encouragement that I could offer is if you feel like you want to get into this field, just push for it. I mean, I hadn't done anything with cocktails, anything, until I got the opportunity to get behind this bar here. And I'm learning on the fly. So if you want to get into the industry, it's growing every day. Just keep pushing until you find that niche that you want to get in. Veer from the path. Now, don't stick to all the big boys. Come visit us little people, and you'll see that it's not all about the name. I mean, there's a lot of great product out there that a lot of people don't know about. And getting into these smaller distilleries, you might find something that's a little bit better than that hard to find stuff.